Hi everyone, I want to welcome you back to our channel, and if you're brand new to our channel, I just want to welcome you and glad to have you here. Today I want to share with you some important information, but before I do that, I want to remind you to mash the bell down below, click the subscribe button, and leave us some comments. Stephen, I love to know what you think, and we always appreciate the thumbs up. So don't forget to mash the bell, click subscribe, and then leave us your comments. And remember, on this channel, it's really where we discuss the facts, we provide you the documentation, and then we allow you to decide what's best for you. Because there's lots of different information, there's lots of different options out there, and we want to make sure that you're making the best decision for you and for your family and for your business and for your future. So today I wanted to share with you something that kind of comes up, and I chuckle a little bit because it comes up quite a bit between Steve and I with agents that we work with, and that is, this concept of really kind of learning the products and learning the carriers and learning, the different types of term products, different types of final expense products, and learning all of that stuff before you go out on an appointment. And I'm here to tell you that that's the wrong philosophy. I know I'm gonna get all kinds of hate mail on that one, but it truly is the fact. And what it comes down to is what you need to be good at right now, especially if you're newly licensed. I can remember the very first appointment that I went out on. It was the middle of summer. It was super, super hot in this woman's house. She didn't run the air conditioning. I was just sweating blazes, and I went through all of the information that I knew, which was pretty limited. And at the end of the presentation, she decided that, you know what, she and her husband just really didn't need what I had. At first I thought, oh dear, maybe I didn't know enough. Maybe I didn't have enough information. And then she turned to me and she said, my daughter is just about to have a baby, and she doesn't have anything in place, and I really want to make sure there's something there for my grandson, if something should happen to my daughter. And she said, can you do something like that? And you know what, guys, I would have never had any of those opportunities and any of the opportunities since then if I had not become really, really good at one thing, and that was being a good appointment setter. And I had a little bit of an angle, I think, before I got my license, before I started going out and running my own appointments. I was doing a lot of appointment setting for Steve and for a couple other agents. And so the advantage there was I had to be good at that because there was nothing else that I could do. That was all that I was prepared to do. And so I learned that one of the most important things was to be just immersed in appointment setting. You should always be dialing leads. I was always striving to figure out where I could squeeze in a few extra phone calls. Today is another great example. I went to an appointment. It just wasn't a great appointment. I didn't end up writing an application. And so I drove down the block. I was waiting for a friend to have lunch, and I had about 10 or 15 minutes before I went to the restaurant. And so I pulled out my folder, sat down, opened it up, dialed a couple of leads, booked 2 appointments. So the secret to that is this. All of my product knowledge, all of my underwriting knowledge, all of my carrier knowledge, all of the knockout questions, all of the things that will get a decline, all of this, all of that, all the build charts, none of that matters if you don't get into a home. And my second point is this, and this is really going to be the controversial point, so hang on to your seats. I think that a lot of agents have a, they don't see the phone as a fun aspect of the business. They don't see the phone as the money-making aspect of the business. And so they don't want to do it. And so they'll find any which way from Sunday not to have to pick up the phone and make those dials. And so I think sometimes we confuse learning the products, learning the carriers. Steve and I get phone calls all the time, just about daily. What are the top 3 carriers? Who are the carriers that we're going to be using the most? And because agents now know how low of a tolerance level we have for that question, they try and find different ways to ask us that question, right? Well, which if I was going to use a carrier, which carrier would I use? And our response is always the same. You know what? Your time is better spent right now getting your leads, finding a way to squeeze as much time as possible into the day where you can dial leads, book appointments, because that really is the most important aspect of what you're going to do, especially, starting off. This is not a complicated business, and I think that what you'll find when you start to get into the home is that all of that technical product knowledge that you have tried to cram into your brain, first of all, you're not going to remember it all. That's the first thing. Second thing, you probably are going to be learning the wrong products. That's always how it manages to work out, right? You're going to learn product A, and inevitably you're going to end up selling a lot of product B. And third, like I said, this is not a complicated business. So I think that you'll find that a lot of times you're going to go into a home and people already have a general concept of how this is going to work. You want to make sure that you're doing the best by your client, but saturating your brain sponge with all that information is not where your time is best spent. So set yourself a goal, set yourself an appointment goal for next week, and sit down and dial until you get there. I worked with an agent yesterday, and I'll leave you with this point. I worked with an agent yesterday, and she had started down the path of polling other agents, so every time we would talk about or spotlight an agent that was having success booking appointments, this agent, we'll call her Mary. Mary would try and figure out, I really want to spend some time on the phone with Jill to find out what she's doing, and I really want to find some time to talk with Bob and see what he's doing. He's having so much success booking those appointments, and what do I do if somebody says this, and what do I do if they say that, and what do I do if this happens? And I said, oh my gosh, stop. And I'll say the same thing to you right now. Stop. Get your stack of leads, sit down in a quiet place, dial from the first lead to the last lead, dial every phone number twice. And I said, don't do anything else until you do that. Don't worry or think about anything else. Just sit and do that. And at the end of, I think it was about an hour and a half, she had booked 2 appointments with the existing leads that she had sitting there. And the majority of her leads, she just hadn't gotten on the phone yet. So nothing happens and nothing is needed until you are sitting in the home across a kitchen table from a client, and that all starts with booking the appointment. So make that your priority. Make that what you're going to be really, really good at. Okay, so here's my recap on a couple really important points that I want you to remember about everything that I just said. And that is this. One, I have my handy little notes here. All of this is really, to a certain extent, predicated on the fact that you have somebody to work with. So one of the things that has made everything that I just talked about possible in my business, just for me as a writing agent, but also for the agents that we have brought on that we work with on a daily basis, is this. The most important thing that you are going to do and learn and be really, really good at is booking those appointments. But it's also vital that you have someone that you can reach out to when you're in the home, sitting at someone's kitchen table, and maybe they throw kind of an obscure question or an obscure point at you. It's really important that you have somebody that you can turn to that client and say, you know what, hold on just 1 second. I want to call my, my field underwriter, my field manager. I just want to make sure there isn't anything that I've missed. Or you know what, Bob and Mary, that's a great question. I'm going to call my field underwriter real quick and just get the answer for you on that real quick. So that is very, very important. If you are kind of a lone wolf agent out there trying to kind of make it on your own, you may need to have a little bit of product knowledge, but that leads me into my second point, which is product knowledge should be really narrowed down to a very limited number of carriers and a very limited number of products. And it's one of the things that Steve and I have really based our agency on, and that is having that core nucleus of products and carriers that you learn, and you learn their idiosyncrasies, you learn the do's and don'ts, and you're only going to learn that over time. But to gain some of that product knowledge, carrier guides, underwriting guides, agent guides. All of those things are great information, great informational packets to read as you're winding down your day. Those are after hours activities. And so I did want to clarify that point. I didn't want to give, I didn't want you to have the impression that you should know nothing about your products or know nothing about what you're selling, or just, kind of grab a carrier and a product out of thin air and just go with it. But you do need to have somebody that is going to be your support outside of the home, okay, so that you can reach out to them when you get stumped, especially if you're new. And two, you do need to know where those agent guides, where those carrier guides are, so that you can turn around and at night, it's great bedtime reading. Steve and I have many an agent guide on our nightstands. But that's the kind of thing that you should be doing after hours. What frustrates me, and should frustrate you, is that during those peak hours when you could be booking appointments, when you could be writing applications, you could be in a home, that you're spending that time to read an agent guide. And it's just not good use of your time. It's just not. And I would challenge anybody who thinks that it is. So that's my first point. And my second point, which is, got to have somebody that you can reach out to, a mentor, a coach, a manager, whatever you want to call it. But you got to have somebody that you're going to link arms with, that will be there to kind of support you on the things that you might not know yet. And two, product learning, carrier learning is best done at night. And three, narrow that list down. You don't want to go out and run your insurance business using 10 different carriers and 40 different products. And so every time a case comes in front of you, you have to spend hours trying to figure out, well, should I go here or should I go there? Have that core group of products. And I think part of the reason that this becomes so important, and why I keep harping on getting good at the phone, getting good at booking those leads, is for this reason. I have people all the time that agents that will talk with us, and one of the things that Steve and I do with our agents is we're very committed to making sure that they have the opportunity to do some role play with us on that phone script and how they're going to dial those leads. And I hear from agents all the time that come back to me and say, you know what, I've been dialing, I've been booking appointments, or I've been making dials, I have no problem with the phone, I've been doing it for 20 years. And then 2 or 3 weeks later, I'll say, how are your appointments going? And they'll say, well, I'm just not booking the appointments. I'm just not getting the appointments, or I'm getting this, or I'm getting that. And the reason is because you're not really using an effective phone script. And, I would encourage you, and I know Steve has talked about this, but I would encourage you to remember to come into this business being coachable from someone who has gone even just a few steps ahead of you, because learning that phone script and how it sounds when it comes out of your mouth, and how it's going to sound on the other end of the phone, and what you turn into a question and what you turn into a statement, and where you pause and where you don't pause, all of those things are important. So put down your experience in whatever you've done in the past, and come with a fresh mind, because that will dramatically increase your effectiveness in booking appointments. And when I talk about having somebody to reach out to when you're in the home, and this theory of not learning all the products before you go out and book the appointments, is part of that is this: you are never, ever, ever, ever going to be able to learn everything that you need to learn and answer all of the questions before you get into that home, ever. I guarantee you that the first objection or question that you get is not going to be something that you would have found in a manual. And one of the things that I think I would probably speak for Steve as well as myself is that a lot of the objections that we get in the home don't have anything to do with the technical details of a product. They have to do with the bigger concept of living benefits. They have to do with the bigger concept of budget. So knowing how to address those issues is really much more valuable than knowing the idiosyncrasies about what particular prescription drug is going to be a decline, or how many years after a heart attack is somebody eligible, or whatever. But those are just a couple of points that I wanted to clarify and make sure that you had a good understanding. I'm not endorsing that you should just get your insurance license and then go run out willy-nilly booking appointments. You got to have a system in place. It's one of the things that Steve and I have made a cornerstone of the people that we work with, is working within a system and doing it the right way. So I hope all of this adds a little more clarification. Set yourself a goal. Turn this video off after you mash the bell and click on the subscribe and leave us a little thumbs up. Turn the video off, grab your stack of leads, dial from the first lead to the last lead, and dial every phone number twice. I hope this has been some help for you. We've got a couple more videos coming up, so stay tuned for those.